Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. My name is Zach and we're doing the Ecomi Omi video as usual. Currently the price is 6437 on a low of 6195 and a high of 6801. So we've stabilized in the sixes for a bit now. If we have a look at the all chart for a second, we've been in the sixes for honestly a few days at this point, which I know to some people on one of my more recent videos were like, we hit the sixes a while ago. Maybe we did. I just couldn't see it on the chart anywhere. Back in September, apparently we hit it, which actually, I guess it's around there maybe that we hit it. But even this, we're at the 5/8. Either way, this video isn't necessarily about that. I'm going to go over something that Taps Trades was talking about in one of his latest videos, where he was going over his price prediction roadmap. Love his videos, been watching them since I started doing VeVe stuff, as well as, Cavanas and etc. It's really interesting to see what he's talking about regarding essentially price highs. We're talking about, obviously, when I first started looking at Ecomi, I saw, of course, this spike right here, and the spike that the max that we've been at is the 1.3. That has been our height. But what we're looking at here, of course, is Taps looking at literally a new price high of 1.8 or 0.18, which is very interesting. I want to go through what he's talking about here and what I can see happening and maybe some differences, but most of it is pretty much the same. So let's jump into it.
Fell into a very bearish lag run that was very unexpected.
So actually, before we do that, let's have a quick look at the different things that have happened. So we saw comics and collectibles and that moon. So obviously that was in a big way with Marvel stuff. We saw a lot of comics going on. Honestly, Marvel has, it was the IP that we were all hoping for at some point, and as soon as it's come out, now they've gone hard with it. And the Marvel Twitter account has been posting about it. We've seen blog posts, etc. What was interesting though was that so far at least I haven't seen any Marvel YouTubers speaking about it. If I'm wrong, please send me a link, let me know. I'm sure you will. Awareness picked up, and that's true. Awareness did pick up, especially on the Twitter end of things. VeVe, I think, gained a lot of followers over the past roughly 90 days, which is really cool to see. Of course, the crypto bull run re-engaged, immutable MTL, and these dates are clarified. Important, of course, to keep our trust, right? To keep us sort of, in the mix about what's happening. Now we're in October, of course, and of course, Immutablex, we're seeing the moon transfer license, New York Comic Con, which of course we're already seeing exclusives with that, with the Spider-Man drop, the Masters Collector program, a showroom V2, which of course is essentially a very beta version, I guess, of what we will eventually see with the Veveverse, which will come not too long in itself. Then we see season 3 starting, probably some new spooky licenses, etc. That said, let's have a little, because I think this is roughly where Taps goes into it.
To the crypto world. And so that pushed out the timelines by a couple months. In that time, we actually fell down to 0.0014. So if you invested at that time, then your investment is up 400%, and we're just getting started. It has around 200% to reclaim its all-time high, and the price doubled in September alone. And so let's start there. We can see in September what happened, what caused it to go from 0.003 to 0.006. You can see that the comics...
I've clearly got it wrong. Let's go a bit further in.
MTL and Veveverse dates have been clarified. Up until that point, they were always talked about, but there was no real solidity to them because, again, it was like, oh, it's coming. But now we know Immutablex is here, about to happen. MTL is...
And of course, Immutablex, we had a tweet from Ecomi. I think I even made a video about it maybe about 2 weeks ago, where we were talking about Ecomi really sort of readying Omi holders for the transition to Immutablex, of course, which people are still concerned about, and I get it because maybe some people aren't watching every video that people make, etc, or whatever, but there will be a long time for you to transition your token. It's not going to be a big deal. It'll be, I assume, fairly easy, because that's one thing Ecomi have definitely got down, probably more than a lot of other projects I've seen, is they are very, very consumer driven, and that's so important. That is so important, which means that, it's not a case of, for many NFT holders here, for many NFT collectors and stuff, the reality is that obviously some of us are going to be crypto savvy, but others are simply going to want the product without having to think about any crypto tokenomics, etc. So that's one thing that VeVe will get down nicely, I think, is we will have a nice and as easy as possible transition over.
Finalizing, and Veveverse we know is sometime in 2022, and they're aiming for Q1. So it's all finally finally about to happen. So with that in mind, end of October, I believe we'll be at 0.018. So we will not only reclaim our all-time high, but go past it with a 300% gain in the next month. And again,
that's a freaking big change. That literally, well, I mean, I don't know why I'm saying this to you, y'all probably know this already, but we'll literally have gone up by 0.005, I believe, if that's correct. My math isn't perfect all the time, but yeah, as far as the all-time high, which is
these
huge.
Could bleed, like a week or two over, but October is going to be nuts. And that's because we have Immutable-X. It'll go in different phases, but the full migration will be going through this month. We have MTL, assuming they're going to finally move forward. They're supposed to have that happen in September, but they did say, there could be a little bit of bleed over into October. We have New York Comic Con. So again, more comic exclusive drops, more attention, more user. Master Collector Program has been spoken about. We've gotten a lot more color around it, but the Medium article is going to be coming out, and that is also more solidity. Showroom.
In case you missed it, by the way, of course, New York Comic Con, we've already spoken about that in 2 videos, I believe. One where I think David may have announced it. It might be someone else, but I think it was David. And also, of course, we've seen the Ben Reilly New York Comic Con exclusive as well.
Version 2. Season 3 starts. So again, season 2 caps. And we'll probably see some spooky new licenses. I'm thinking maybe like Halloween or Jason or something like even tied to, like I showed the CLC, Creative Licensing Corp's license has some ties back to those. I believe we'll see something like that.
Now that's really important, and I'm glad Taps brought this up, because I went over to CLC to see. Obviously, now we've made a whole video about CLC before, so if you haven't seen that already, I would recommend going down and checking it out. But with that said, I've looked at, obviously there's different genres essentially that CLC have run, and one of them of course is horror. So we have Basic Instinct, Evil Dead, Exorcist, just saying, Halloween, Halloween 4, Halloween 5, all of these ones, horror of Frankenstein. Frankenstein's an interesting one as well, because Frankenstein has made its way into Fortnite in the past roughly 48 hours. And I believe that is a big thing with Universal as well, which is huge. But it could be that we see a Frankenstein, because generally when I see items coming to Fortnite, I generally have this idea, okay, it's in Fortnite, it's likely going to be an NFT at some point, because any IP that is getting into Fortnite wants to be in a digital and mass scale environment. The Howling, Jacob's Ladder, the Manitou, Mulholland Drive, that's actually a big one, Nightbreed, Puppet Master, I say that's a big one, it's one that I know, Reanimator, Dracula, Dr. Jekyll and Sister Hyde, and The Fog. So a lot of opportunities for Halloween. How hard will VeVe go into Halloween? And that'll be an interesting one. I want to see how hard VeVe is able to take on certain seasonal events like Halloween and like Christmas, for example. That's one thing, as someone who makes videos about gaming content, about multiple different games, live service AAA titles like Call of Duty, Fortnite, Warzone, which is obviously Call of Duty, Valorant, etc. We always hope that there's going to be content to report on regarding Halloween skins. So having your character look more Halloween-y, maybe with a pumpkin head or something like that. And the same thing with having reskins of maps. So let's say there's a map in the city, you sort of want it to be jack-o'-lantern sort of, hanging from the street lights or whatever it might be. Just something spooky. And I think that would be awesome to see again with VeVe, because I think this was something that's going to be really important with the Veveverse, is that we should see some level of parallels between the gaming universe being the live content service drops essentially in VeVe and in gaming. So I'm excited for that. I'm hoping we'll see more of that. If I didn't explain that very well, I do apologize, but we're going to go more over gaming at some point soon. I want to go through all the licenses that I think we're going to see, which is almost an inevitability. I also want to go over some of the things I think are going to be slow for gaming, but we'll go over that at some point.
As well as they spoke about how we had 4 or 5 different exchanges coming, and we only saw 2 of those, which means that there are at least 2 other exchanges that are originally in mind back in July or June that we have not yet seen, because we know that they're waiting for Immutablex to announce compatible exchanges. So yep. I believe we'll see at least 1 or 2 of those exchanges. And I'm wondering if we'll have some kind of big announcement around their anniversary, which I believe is October 15th. October is super bullish. And then until the end of November, we have more exchanges. I think we'll see a large exchange then. Hopefully that's when we'll actually see Master Collector Program start to actually be used, and hopefully some form of staking with the Omi token. We have Designer Con, which I will be at, and I know some of the other homies will be there as well. Marketing. We're still waiting on marketing. We're still waiting on larger artists and license drops as well.
So marketing wise, that's another interesting one, because marketing has already been done to a certain extent, which is why we've seen such an influx of new users, right? Marketing has already been done to a certain extent when it comes to Marvel putting out blog posts. More importantly than that, honestly, the Marvel tweets that we've seen. And the reality is the Marvel tweets that we have seen and the Marvel collaborations, for example, Spider-Man. Unfortunately, it was reported on by Kotaku by a writer who lost a lot of my personal, lost a lot of respect on my end with how they wrote about the Spider-Man drop. But the main thing there is that, you know, a lot of mainstream articles like Kotaku, like Comic Book, like Screen Rant, have all posted about VeVe, which means that there's definitely these reporters only, and understandably, I'm in the same boat myself as a reporter, essentially myself to a certain extent, just in a different way, because I make videos, I don't write, is you have to make articles about what's going to get clicks, right? And the only reason why something's going to get clicks is because it's something that's relevant. Now, obviously, it's relevant mainly because of the IP that we're looking at being the Marvel IP like Spider-Man, but the point is that VeVe is making news now, and over time, as we see more and more IPs, you know, essentially get into it, and we see more IPs that are really sort of championing their partnership with VeVe, that will be really huge. You know, I think previous partnerships that we've seen haven't necessarily been as marketed through the brands that are being licensed. Like I say, Marvel has done really well with that. DC, I think, has done quite well with that as well. But I think, you know, we'll see a lot more of that at some point, and I'm very excited for that.
Because I think what's going to happen, and this is again me speculating, but I think one large licensor every season will probably be announced. Maybe it'll go into 2 eventually once there's more and more. The first season was the first season, right? So there was a lot of large licensors that were announced, and then there's some that were actually implemented. But then season 2, Marvel, obviously, right? But Marvel, I don't think, is their number 1. Season 3, maybe we'll eventually see something like Disney or Star Wars. And I think further down the line, when we can actually handle the bandwidth, Pokemon will be king. But I think in November, we'll have like a larger artist mention. I'm hoping for like Cause. And I think maybe then we'll start to see some of the licensors that have been announced that have been waiting for, like Jurassic Park or hopefully Capcom sometime in.
Now, in case you're new to VeVe and that space, I always try to make sure as a marketer that we don't skip past what newcomers might be aware of. You're probably aware of this if you've been in the VeVe community for a while, but this was, I think, back in 2020, I'm guessing that this was announced. Yeah, so early 2020, essentially all these licenses were announced. So it's talking about Star Trek, right? Talking about Capcom, but of course we have Warner Bros, we have DC, which we've already looked at. We have Marvel, but we can't see it here because it wasn't announced yet. We have Cartoon Network, Powerpuff Girls, Tokidoki, which we've seen already. What else do we see? Street Fighter. So some of these are like IPs, are IPs behind IPs as such, you know, subsidiaries of IPs. But yeah, it'll be really interesting to see some of these other ones like CBS, for example, taking more stage on the market.
November, we will hit that threshold of 1 million users that they were targeting for the end of the year. From 0.018 to 0.032, be an 80% gain, running until December. I believe then we'll start to see localization come into play.
That'll be huge.
Makes sense for the anime vertical, which means they'll be targeting APAC, and hopefully we'll get some color around Omi to NFT. Again,
okay, before we go into Omi to NFT, APAC, really important. Again, I always try to make sure that whoever's watching these videos knows exactly what's going on. I don't want you thinking, what's APAC? And not saying anything. APAC, I believe, is Asia and Asia Pacific. So essentially you have like generally Asia. So like India, Vietnam, Thailand, Sri Lanka, Pakistan, all these different, you know, Japan, etc. And that will be huge for anime. For those of you who aren't aware, obviously anime is massive. When you think about Crunchyroll, I mean, let's have a look at the Crunchyroll, how many users, right? So Crunchyroll has 120 million users. That is, you know, we're looking for 1 million users on VeVe, you know, for a couple months from now. They have 120 million, and that's only one anime website. I mean, that's probably the most mainstream anime website, I'd guess. But it's absolutely huge. And then you obviously have 5 million paying as well. So once they get into anime, which of course gets into more entertainment IPs, that is going to be absolutely massive. And I know a few people in the anime scene, some voice actors and stuff, and I think that that's going to go big. That's going to go huge. I can't wait for that. Now, the other thing to keep in mind is that means that obviously there are going to be some drops that aren't necessarily for certain, maybe US or US or European users or Australia, etc., etc. Like, obviously anime is for certain people, not for everyone, but we all know that this comes down to a group. You know, a market doesn't have to be one specific type of interest. It needs to be, realistically, for scalability, it needs to be a lot of different interests. If we can get Japanese markets in, primarily with anime and stuff, obviously, that would be absolutely huge.
Adding more utility to the Omi token besides just the staking, and there'll be all that build up leading to the Veveverse for the next year. And so this red line represents what I believe will be inevitably the bear cycle. And so I do think we'll hit it sometime in December. So I believe that we'll probably sit around 6 cents for the year 2021. And then what'll happen is we'll go into a bear cycle and it'll be longer. But if it does manage to actually go into 2021 and we're able to see the first phase of the Veveverse at the end of the quarter, then it's just going to keep scaling up, and at least 15 cents would make sense for this upside run. And again, the constants: burning tokens, signing a new license, celebrity influencer adoption, app usability, like these things are always constants. Now, of all these things, you'll see highlighted Immutablex, MTL, 2 exchanges, large exchange, master collector program, staking. Like, I think these are the biggest things that are going to help the Omi token, because again, it gives more utility, it gives more access. So we need Immutable.
So that's a really interesting one, and I agree. I fully agree with what Taps is saying there to a large extent, but with a caveat or asterisk being, and I'm not sure that this will be, in fairness, the thing that will boost it, but I think it will be the start of a boost. Veveverse buildup is going to be huge, and I want to make it very clear right now that I will be covering a lot of stuff, mainly Veveverse wise. A lot of the crypto stuff, I'm still, well, to be fair, I'm starting to look a lot more at it now, but just in general, I have, as some of you will know already, a pretty large background, right, in gaming, and Veveverse is definitely my thing. Realistically, would never have got into NFTs, or at least not as early as I have. They say early, like 8 months ago, a year ago, I guess, almost. I'm not sure now, maybe like 9 months ago. Either way, though, I have been in the gaming scene way before this, and so I'm very, very bullish on what we can see from the Veveverse, because I do believe that what VeVe can offer is going to be on par and in parallel with some of the AAA live service titles that we see, like Grand Theft Auto, and that is why I've used Grand Theft Auto as an example before to show off what we could see. I'm going to continue making, and I'm going to start making more of them, actually. Well, we're 18 minutes in. I better finish this up soon. I'm going to make more Veveverse videos talking about what I think we can see from Omi and how the utility can go from that. Obviously, we've already seen James Bond, like, what, in the past 24 hours, being announced, or in the past 48 hours, whatever, being announced as a use case for a ticket stub, which is bloody huge, because that itself is massive real-world utility that we're going to see that essentially compound onto other things over time, especially in the Veveverse. Again, just think about it. Like I say, multiple IPs that we have licenses with, partnering up with VeVe to bring new experiences to essentially fans, right? And that's going to be huge when it comes to new releases for new products, new films, etc. I cannot wait. Let me know what your thoughts are in the comments below. With that being said, though, we're going to finish it there. Thank you for watching. Of course, make sure to subscribe to Taps Trades for more of this stuff, because he is by far one of the best YouTubers for this. I've really enjoyed watching his videos, and yeah, I hope that maybe we'll do a collab soon. Who knows? That being said, if this video was interesting or helpful to you in any way, shape, or form, a like is always much appreciated. Make sure to subscribe to this channel if you're new. Have a great day, everyone, and I'll see you in the next VeVe video.